According to the official account, the roots of Thanksgiving go back to 1621 when the Pilgrims in Plymouth, which is present-day Massachusetts, celebrated a successful harvest after a very hard and hungry winter, largely thanks to the help of the Wampanoag tribe Indians. Maybe I made it up? And the joint meal of the colonists and the native people later came to be seen as the symbol of the beginning of the Thanksgiving tradition, that is, Thanksgiving Day. So how did the Indians help? So the settlers, were they invited to dinner? It turns out the Indians taught the colonists how to gather and grow food. The Indians taught the Europeans. This is the official story. I'm just retelling it. I don't fully understand it, but we'll think about it later. The Indians taught the Europeans how to plant corn. They showed them which local plants, berries, and roots were edible. Well, that's about 2 or 3 hours of work for one person, right? Yes? And yes, they taught them how to harvest pumpkins. The Native Americans taught the newcomers who arrived without preparation or life experience, as we're told, in a new country. They didn't know how to fish before, and they didn't know how to hunt deer before. That is, the Native Americans had ways of hunting deer that were unknown to the Europeans. So, out of the 102 people who arrived, 2 died on the way, and 100 set foot on land. And in the first winter, 50 died, which is exactly half. So those who survived then harvested crops and invited the Indians. Well, it's interesting. Who were these people? Maybe they were accountants, ice cream vendors, a boys' choir from a church. Maybe they were barbers who came to America without knowing anything. No, not about farming or hunting, as they're trying to tell us. No, they were farmers. Well, farmers, yes, or locals. They knew how to plant, fish, hunt, build, and grow, so they didn't need to be. They arrived already knowing how to do everything necessary for survival. So what's the story then? How did the Native Americans actually help them? Moreover, they were financed by investors. They were given money to rent a ship, provisions, tools, weapons, and seeds for planting. So first, someone went on a scouting mission. Then a plan was made. Then they gathered people who were capable of building a new life. Most of the Pilgrims didn't have any capital, so they joined as labor contributors. They went there to work, so they were checked for their ability to work, to sow, to build, to fish, to hunt. Or maybe fishing and hunting are very different in America. How is fishing different in America from any other place on Earth? And if it is different, then the advanced trackers. We figured everything out, explained it, and prepared everyone. But then how did the Indians help them? And in general, this whole story looks, well, strange at the very least. Yeah, like something made up, and not a very good one at that, quickly thrown together, kind of slapdash. I mean, like all of human history, it's twisted, changed, and tailored to someone's interests. Whose interests? Why? For what reason? What kind of story is this? So what really happened? A group of London financiers called the Merchant Adventurers, a well-known group, chartered the ship Mayflower in 1600. And they recruited 102 participants for the expedition. The participants agreed to work for the owners. They were selected. Just like that. You're weak, and what about you? Can you do this? No, we won't take you. They picked the good workers. So they were supposed to come to the new land, settle there, and send furs, timber, and other things to England. They were supposed to say everything necessary there, so from the profits. The settlers' debt declined as their travel expenses were covered and they received a loan. And they said, now send, so to speak, this amount of this and that. Until the debt was fully paid off, the Pilgrims had to work wherever the authorities told them to. And all the earnings went into a common fund. Some was given or sold to investors on the spot, and the rest was divided only among the colonists. So no matter what you did, you got exactly as much as your neighbor, who might have done twice as much as you, or might have done nothing at all. The plan was to repay investors in 7 years, then work independently. The Pilgrims received everything they needed for life from the Communal Fund: clothing, shoes, medicine, tools, housing. Well, that's how communes lived in the Soviet Union. Basically nothing, no personal property. Everything was public, collective, communal. Nothing. But whose was it really? And practically immediately, the colonists realized that they would get their share regardless of whether they worked hard or just pretended to work, whether they went to work or were sick. Everyone got sick and slacked off. As a result, when winter came, no more supplies were made, and people started clearing out the deck, clearing out. And in the very first winter, 50% of the colony died. To be continued. Communism harshly explained to the new Americans that it doesn't work. The governor of the colony, William Bradford, turned out to be a smart, educated, and far-sighted man. At this point, he told the colonists, the communal pot, the commune, and public property are over. The remaining colonists divided up the land, and they got to work. Every man for himself. As they say, family comes first. Individualism, acquisitiveness, the desire for ownership, for one's own happiness and benefit are natural. That doesn't mean you don't help your neighbor or that you do something bad to someone who's not a member of your family. It's just that your family comes first. And also, if you don't plant it yourself, don't take care of the crops, and don't harvest them, you won't have anything to eat. And everyone had food on their tables. There was so much of it that they could have a 3-day feast and invite their neighbors, who turned out to be Native Americans. By the way, they were very friendly and helped the Pilgrims during the hard winter. Sometimes they would bring fish, sometimes they would catch wild turkey, and sometimes they would feed the children with flatbreads. Thanksgiving, therefore, was not for the Native Americans teaching them how to fish, although, of course, they were thanked for what they did. And not to the investors, and not even to the governor who saved the Pilgrims from starving to death. Thanksgiving was to God, who took away the specter of communism from the settlers, inoculated them, and gave them the opportunity to live by the fruits of their own labor. The colonists thanked God for the lesson, editor, which they wanted to be passed down from generation to generation. Only working for yourself, only motivation by necessity, and then the possibility of achieving any heights. Only this puts bread on the table and black caviar on the bread. And this is the essence and meaning of this great holiday, which the generation of collectivists tried to silence and then tried to replace with their usual lies and deceit. Subtitles. So, gentlemen, have a drink today. Raise a shot glass, a wine glass, a cup, or even a bucket. To the personal, to your own, to responsibility, to a wonderful day, Thanksgiving, and to us, of course, to all of us.